Well, I am starting off this year with a bang. I'm so excited. I got 8 books down this month. Let's talk about them. Welcome to Pen to Paper. I'm Leah Lindeman, and today I'm excited to talk with you about the 8 books I read in January. How did you do your first month with your reading? Listen, if you only read 1 book, that's fine too. Even if you didn't read a book, that's okay too. Maybe you've got different priorities, but are you ready to sit down and listen? Maybe you're not sitting down. You know, I tend to listen to these videos when I'm actually doing work around the house, so maybe you're doing that too while you're listening to this. That's fine as well. Let me get into the first book that I read this month. The first book was From the Ashes by Jessie Thistle. I gave this book 5 stars. It is an intricate portrayal of a man who came from a broken home, a Métis man who came from a broken home and lived most of his life in a homelessness state. And at the end of his book, it chronicles all the experiences that he had. And it really doesn't hold back on the punches. It really just gives you exactly what he went through. And he describes it in great detail. But not to the point that he's trying to gross you out, but to just really portray what real life is like for homeless people. But at the end, it ends on a great note because today he is a highly sought after professor. I can't remember which university it is, but he is renowned for his work in Indigenous historical studies. He has turned his life around, mainly due to the support of some key people in his life and the unwavering acceptance of Harvest House, which was the only institution that would take him in despite all his addictions and sufferings. Just realized here my mic is totally out of place. Fixed it. Hopefully you can hear me better now. So also with this book, they were very bite-sized chapters. I loved it, and interspersed throughout the chapters were beautiful poetry of his experiences. Highly recommend it. If you want a great Indigenous autobiography memoir, this is the book for you. It is going to rip your heart out and hold it close and then put it back in with a greater appreciation and compassion and empathy for those people who have gone through what he has gone through and what they still continue to go through. The next book that I read was, let me see if I can get this in order. I can't remember the second book that I read, and it's difficult to know because it's on my phone. But here we go. I'm going to go next with White Lightning by Melissa Yee. She is a local author. We are both part of the same book club. And this is Dr. Hope Z book number, I believe it's 8 or 9. This was her best book so far of the series. I have read number 1 and then probably somewhere between 6 to this one, but I haven't read 2 to 5 or 6, somewhere around there. So I can't really compare it to her earlier works in the series, but I have to say this one was my favorite because she actually didn't have just one murder. She had 3 different murders, and she also weaved historical fiction into it and really highlighted the chimney sweepers, who are boys during the Industrial Revolution, where they had to work through very trying situations and did not have the health care that they needed, and just the view on child labor as a whole. It really highlighted the difficulties that they had growing up in that kind of a lifestyle. So that was very touching and difficult to read at times. However, the book was so fast-paced. It's not a big book, but it really packs in a lot. Everything was great. I loved how the love triangle was satisfied at the end. Just loved the mixture of the historical fiction with the medical crime. And then she always is able to insert how a doctor would respond in a certain situation due to the circumstances surrounding her detective doctor. It's just such a great read. I gave it 4.5 stars. The only thing I would say is that I was a little underwhelmed by who her stalker was, because she has a stalker. But that was it. I mean, other than that, this is such a great read, guys. Super exciting. Very action-packed. Definitely a great, fast, fun read. Now I remember the next one that I read. It was Women in the Walls by Amy Lukovics. This one I gave 3 stars. I felt the premise was very... and there's my dog walking around again. The premise was very... what am I trying to say here? It was very promising. That's what I'm trying to say. It was very promising. The ambiance of the book was probably the best part. The author did a great job of drawing the reader in and filling the reader with questions of why are there voices in the walls, and why did the main character's aunt go wandering off to the garden? She hasn't been back for 2 weeks. Why is the cousin suddenly going to this downward spiral and going crazy? And I definitely have to say she nailed it with the cousin. The cousin, man, was really freaky. Just the way she was responding to these voices in the walls, and then her demise just gave me the chills. But the protagonist herself, her dad, her aunt, the circumstances surrounding the house and the estate, I didn't really care for. It was a good book overall, but nothing special that I could really point out other than the creepy cousin. So this is a 3 stars horror novel. Next, I have Yellow Crocus by Layla Ibrahim, and this was recommended to me by Julie from The Hungry Bookworm. So thank you, Julie, for this recommendation. I loved it. I believe I gave it a 5 stars. I'm just going to say I'm giving it a 5 stars. It tells a story of Maddie, who is a slave woman, and just when she has given birth to her own son and is feeding him, she is wrenched away from him and forced to be the nursemaid to the master's daughter, Elizabeth. And those years that she's away from her son, Elizabeth clings to her and they form this special bond. It chronicles their relationship as Elizabeth gets older and really comes to see the system of slavery that her father employs and that other masters also employ, and how they treat their servants, and her eyes are opened over time. Maddie's husband and son eventually escape, and once Maddie's daughter, baby daughter, grows up, she also escapes and reunites with her husband. And fate has it so that Elizabeth chooses her own path in life and meets Maddie once again. It's a beautiful tale of 2 races coming together, showing love and compassion and kindness, even when the system around them has been rigged otherwise. So this was a great read. Next, for an audiobook, that was an audiobook, by the way. Great narration. I'm not sure who narrated it, but she had the voices downright packed. Then we also have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And this one we read with the Rambling Reader. So that's Nikki from Dark Between Pages, Linda from Linda's World of Books, Marilee from Sky's Book Chat, and Julie from The Hungry Bookworm. I'm going to put that in the cards above. You can hear more of our thoughts on it. Overall, I believe I gave it a 4 stars. It could have been phenomenal. However, 2 things. I would have preferred to have more of the journal entries from the women. Oh, before I talk about that, let me explain what the book is about. It's about this psychotherapist, psychiatrist, whatever he is, Theo, who is intrigued by a patient, Alicia, who has killed her husband and ever since the murder has been completely silent. And he is wanting to unravel the mystery of what happened that fateful night. So the book goes between Theo's perspective and Alicia's diary entries. I really would have liked to have seen more of her diary entries than his perspective. And I really was hoping, she's an artist, and before she is silent, before she is put away in an asylum, she paints this painting called, I can't remember now. It's based on a Greek mythology, Greek tragedy. Maybe it'll come to me. And she paints it, and that is her way of trying to say something. And so I really wish that her art would have taken a more prominent place in the book. I think the book would have been way stronger if the author had used more of that perspective from her. But I love the ending. It really could have gone both ways. I felt it was a great explanation for everything that happened that night with Alicia and her husband. So overall, 4 stars. Then I have Everything is Summer by Alexander Michael. And I'm not going to say too much on this one because I'm actually going to be doing a dedicated book review to his book next week. Next Friday, you'll be able to see that. But overall, I gave this 5 stars. Let me just say this. This book is the most unique book I've ever read. It's super trippy and full of emotion and wonder and awe-inspiring. Just crazy, good, weird. Let's start. Just keep it there. Then I have The Man in the Brown Suit by Agatha Christie. I'm excited to say that I'm going to be reading a Christie book every month this year. I can't remember what challenge this is. It's basically a Christie challenge where you read a Christie book that follows a certain prompt. The Man in the Brown Suit, I gave it 4.5 stars. Agatha Christie is known for delightful, colorful characters, but darker mysteries. And this one, I have to say, follows the adventures of Anne Bedingfield. She receives this inheritance from her father, from her uncle, one of the male relatives of her family. She uses it to embark on an adventure where there are stolen diamonds and spies that have gone cold and reactivated. It's just an overall fun, rollicking ride. Probably the lightest Christie book I've ever read. Now, I haven't read that much Christie. I love Agatha Christie from whatever I've read. But this was just fun. And she was such a witty, spunky, lively character. I loved Anne Bedingfield a lot. And I did like her love interest too. I'm not going to say who it is because there's like 3 or 4 potential ones, but she lands on a good one. And that was actually a great example of weaving a romance within a main genre. So, Man in the Brown Suit is 4.5 stars by Agatha Christie. And then I have Almost Ruth. This was so good. By Tyler Jones, 5 stars. I was so hooked. First sentence, and I knew this book was going to be amazing. The first third of the book, oh goodness, that's my dog. This town has secrets. Abel Cunningham, who basically buries the dead, keeps to these rules every time he does. And every year there's this festival of stones where loved ones are able to chip off a little bit of the gravestone and throw it in this mystery hole where they hopefully hear their loved ones' voices from the dead. and they all need to follow the rules in order for the lines between the supernatural and the natural world to stay where they are. However, Abel Cunningham, knowing more than anybody how important this is, actually breaks the rules for his daughter that he lost many years ago. And now he is having to pay the consequences with the ones he loves most. Now the first third of the book is all about this mystery. What is this town? Who founded it? Why do they have to follow these rules? And if he breaks the rules, what's really going to happen? The second third of this book is, it's just grief-stricken. It rubs you down to the core, and it's a love letter. A love letter full of grief and horror and sorrow. Very powerful. And the last third, the last third is a mixture and bringing it together of this grief-stricken love letter and this horror and mystery. What is this town? What's happening? And it all just wraps it up in the end. This book I will never forget. It is one of a kind. Highly recommend it. If you want a love story, mystery, all under the horror banner, it is a masterpiece. Excellent work, Tyler Jones. I can't wait to read more of your work. So that was it for my reads this month. This is a great month. By the way, my two favorites were From the Ashes by Jessie Thistle, the Indigenous Métis memoir, and Almost Ruth by Tyler Jones. Everything is Summer is also excellent. So now I'm going to quickly share with you what I'm going to read this month. So obviously February is Black History Month, and I'm going to be celebrating Black literature. Most of these are, here, let me just say what I'm reading here. Okay, so the first book that I'm actually having to read is Five Little Indians by Michelle Good. This does not fall under the Black History banner, but it is a book that my book club is doing, and so obviously I got to read it. So that's the first one. Then I've got Condi, the Condoleezza Rice story. I don't know anything about her. It's written by Antonia Felix, so this is a biography. I wanted to do at least one biography, and I had this on my shelf, and so I said, well, why not? This is what I've got. Then, with my Agatha Christie challenge, I'm reading Death on the Nile because it's coming out. Actually, when you see this, it's already going to be out. I cannot wait to see it. It looks amazing. But I got to read the story first, the book. So there's that. Then I've got Night Comes Swiftly by P.B. Wilson. This seems to be a historical fiction. Almost kind of sounds a little bit like Yellow Crocus along the same lines, so we'll see how it is. I don't know if the author is Black. I'm not sure. But hopefully it represents Black lives in a good light. And then we have Lawrence Hill, The Book of Negroes. This is a winner of Canada Reads bestseller. I've had this on my shelves for a long time too. I got the secondhand, so I'm really excited to finally crack it open. And I know that there's also a TV show. So once I'm done this book, I'm going to read the TV show. And my last read. I've got a lot of reads. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, and then I got some audiobooks and, well, I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. Okay, then I know this also does not fall under the Black History Month, but it's a romance book, so I want to read it for February. It is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative. This is your favorite, or one of your favorites, so I'm really excited to read it because I've heard you rave about it. And also the movie is out as well, so I really want to see that, but before I see it, I want to actually read the book first, so that's what I'm going to do. And then I also have Legend Born by Tracy something. I'm sorry, I forget. and that is a young adult fantasy with a Black main protagonist, so that's really exciting. I'm really eager to get into that. And right now I'm actually listening to the Jane Austen Society Club, and I can't remember who the author is for that, but you'll find all about that in my next wrap-up reads and review. That's it. I hope you had a great reading month in January. What was your favorite book? And what are you most looking forward to reading in February? And are you participating in reading Black literature for Black History Month? Please like, comment, and subscribe. I am looking forward to hearing you guys. Take care. God bless. See you next week.